Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. No justice, Maria Butina's tragic and senseless legal experience in the U.S., and more on Syria. How many more times will Trump flip-flop? Is this American president remotely in control of his own foreign policy? Cross-talking some real news. I'm joined by my guest here in Moscow, Xavier Moreau. He is the founder of the Center of Political Strategic Analysis, Stratpol. And in London, we cross to Marcus Papadopoulos. He is the editor of Politics First magazine. All right, gentlemen, crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. Marcus, let me go to you first in London. I am exasperated again, okay? How many more times is this American president going to flip-flop on Syria? Because the charge being made that with Trump's order to have American troops withdrawn a number of times now because it will make America look weak. Well, he looks weak by being so indecisive. I mean, the United States and its policy towards Syria is turning into the laughingstock in the region and around the world. Your thoughts, my friend?
Peter, I start with the premise that whilst the American government pursued the objective of attempting to overthrow President Assad and the Syrian government, Washington never had a coherent strategy in place for achieving its objective, mainly due to the conflicting agencies in Washington, specifically the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA. So, Peter, if my premise is correct, then I think it's plausible to argue that the Americans, because their objective has been defeated, the Americans today do not have a coherent strategy for withdrawing from Syria, once again, in large measure, due to agencies in Washington who are vying with each other, namely the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA. And of course, the situation for Washington is not helped by having a president whose understanding and knowledge of the conflict in Syria is largely confined to Wikipedia. I think for Washington, there are two options. The first option is to retain an influence in Syria by having American forces there. Or the other option is to withdraw all American forces from Syria and maintain an influence in Syria through one of its most strategic allies in the world, namely Turkey. But I believe the State Department and the CIA and the Pentagon do not have a unified opinion on how America can maintain influence in Syria.
Okay, Xavier, it was a couple of weeks ago, it was all about the Kurds. Now it's all about oil now. Yeah. It's all about oil, protecting Syria's oil. No, it's denying Syria its oil. Oh, but they don't want ISIS to get the oil. Well, they're in no position to do that. When the United States finally leaves, it will be the regional partners that will take, and primarily Arabs, that will take care of this problem called ISIS that Western powers were so much involved in creating in the first place here. So it's all about oil, isn't it? What foreign oil company is going to go there with American troops there to protect that or to exploit it? It's not going to happen. It's ridiculous on its face.
In my opinion, Trump is a developer. He wants to build a tower, and his tower is to leave Syria. And when he took the decision, which is a good decision in my opinion, because he ends a war at least, and he's one of the first presidents doing that the last 30 years, he didn't count what will happen after that. What about the Kurds? What about the oil? What about the Pentagon or the CIA are going to find to try to slow down this retreat? But the point is, Trump took his decision. We know that soon he will made a statement. It's supposed to be the fact that al-Baghdadi is dead. So he ended the war. He won the war. That's what he wants to prove.
Rhetorically, I mean, if he wants to say he won the war, if he wants to say that he defeated ISIS, that's okay with me. Mission accomplished. Go home. Okay, but by staying there, that's an admission that they have lost. Okay, but let me go back to Marcus here. Xavier used the operative word here, retreat, okay? That's how this is being painted here. And that is a very big mistake. If we can look at the outsized influence of someone like Senator Lindsey Graham, who ran in 2016 for president, couldn't even get 2% popularity. His ideas are not popular. His foreign policy is not popular, but he has this outsized influence on Trump, and he likes to brag about it. This is part of the incoherence that you mentioned earlier, and I wanted to throw in Congress because they're rattling the cage as well. And for someone like Trump that likes to project that he knows what he's doing, and maybe he does on some things, but certainly not on this issue, he looks indecisive, he looks very weak, and apparently he listens to the last person he talks to. Go ahead, Marcus.
I think it's fair to say that Donald Trump is first and foremost a businessman. He really does not come across as being someone who is an effective politician. He understands economics. I have no doubt he understands what needs to be done for the American economy. But I believe that foreign affairs to Donald Trump are exactly that. They are foreign. And I believe that he is trying to balance the competing forces around him, not just in the White House, but also on Capitol Hill. Why? Because next year there is an American presidential election, and of course, he wants to be re-elected. He doesn't know which way to turn. Yep. To put it colloquially, he doesn't know whether he's coming or going. He wants to have someone like John Bolton there, but when he feels that the other people who are advising him are telling him, listen, Donald, this man could cause you serious loss of prestige, he could jeopardize your chances of being re-elected, then he gets rid of John Bolton. And we have seen this practice since he entered office at the beginning of 2017. But what is abundantly clear is that since the start of this dreadful conflict in Syria, from Obama to Trump, this conflict has seriously damaged America's reputation in the world, seriously damaged its integrity. Yes, we could say Iraq did that, but because they have not had a coherent strategy in Syria, this has exposed Washington for being almost like a circus, almost like court jesters. But we must never forget this, Peter. It's a circus, but it has cost hundreds
enormously.
Of thousands.
You know, Xavier, what I think is really interesting, if you look at Western media coverage of it, it's really remarkable to me because you have the Russians, you have the Iranians, and you have the Turks that have essentially wrapped this thing all up. They have some differences among them, but they know what direction they want to go to. If you look at Western media coverage of it, they're oblivious to all of these things here. The interesting thing is that the reality on the ground is that the American forces in Syria are essentially irrelevant. Yeah. They have nothing to do with ending this conflict. But you wouldn't know that following Western media outlets. It's really quite remarkable. They miss the real story.
This is the comeback of the dictator of reality. And again, when the US decided to be involved in Syria, they didn't have any plan, but Assad must go.
Must go, yeah.
This was the only one. And after that, it was, we have to support the Kurdish people because they are brave people and we need to support the idea of having
while the Turks
state.
Are talking to the Russians and Assad, okay?
Exactly, exactly. And if you look at, on the contrary, what did the Russians? Since the beginning, as soon as they sent some planes, some troops to support Assad, in the same time, they started to organize a political solution of the conflict, and that's what they did. The Russian diplomacy succeeded to bring to the same table the Turkish and the Iran, the Sunnite power and the Shiite power. It's very impressive as a result. But the problem is that the Russians are the only country having a real political aim in this area. And the problem, I think we don't need to be too hard with Trump, because again, he decided to leave Syria. It will be very difficult, because if you believe what said Hamid Karzai, the former Afghan president, ISIS as well was a creator of the deep US deep state, if I can say. So, of course, as long as he will retreat from Syria, maybe a retreat from Iraq, who knows? He will suffer so many...
okay, let me go back to Mark, because that's a really good point here. And I think, and it's a bipartisan issue, unfortunately, in the United States, with the pliant media going along with it. This is just something that cannot be comprehended, of leaving a place, okay? That's something, somehow that's un-American, I suppose. I would make the statement that it's the most American thing you can do, because you're wasting lives, you're wasting treasury, you're destroying your reputation. But, you know, this is what Trump is up against, and I will be hard on Trump, is that he is the president, it is his foreign policy, and he doesn't have the wherewithal or the vision to fight back against this consensus that does not further the American national interest whatsoever. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I think for America, Peter, there is a great deal of shock that they have been defeated in Syria. For 2 decades, the 1990s and the 2000s, America had got used to being victorious across the world, from the former Yugoslavia to Iraq to Libya. You tell me, Peter, the last time America had to retreat from a country because they failed was Vietnam. Yeah. And that is a long, long time ago. So I think this has sent a shock through the corridors. In Washington.
I'll tell you, it's even worse than that, Marcus, because I agree with you, but you have to look at the other side of the coin. When is the last time they've won in these military endeavors? That's all the time we have for this part of the program. Marcus Papadopoulos, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on some real news. Stay with RT.
And we're going to fulfil the repeated promises of Parliament to the people and come out of the EU, no ifs or buts.
Completely glutinous agreement on most of the issues that have been raised, whether it was free trade or Russia.
Babushka? Привет, братан. Now you're one of us, bratан. No. No! No! Oh, Kalinka, Kalinka, Kalinka моя, а Kalinka, Kalinka, Kalinka моя.
Как ты решился бросить официальную работу, заняться только блогерством и сельским хозяйством? Было тяжело, конечно, но мы сделали это.
Всем привет! Сегодня мы ответим на ваши вопросы.
Было какое-то разочарование такое. Руки опускались, не знал, с чего начать.
Я не знаю, как это вообще будет. Я просто не представляю.
Это вообще, Я понимал, что это утопия, другого выхода просто не было.
Ну все, муженек сходил на охоту.
Выставляя свою жизнь на показ, да, страшно, боязно.
Да не плачь, а что я расплачусь.
Пришлось поднатужиться, но мы осуществили свою мечту.
Реалити-шоу, что ли?
Это жизнь.
In a world of fake partisan news, lies, and conspiracy, it's time to wake up, to dig deeper, to hit the stories that mainstream media refuses to tell. More than ever, we need to be smarter. We need to stop slamming the door on the facts and shouting past each other. It's time for critical thinking. It's time to fight for the middle, for the truth. The time is now for watching closer, for watching the Hawks.
Нас называли дивизией Waffen-СС.
Я узница концлагеря Салстеля, страшного Салстеля. Заживо гнили дети.
Это не доказано, то есть научно.
Там на полметра была пропитана земля полусгоревшим человеческим жиром. 632 тела ребенком.
Здесь мой взвод. Очень интеллигентные люди. Очень приятно было работать.
Больно это все вспоминать.
During the Great Depression, which I'm old enough to remember, there was, and most of my family were unemployed, working class. There wasn't, it was bad, much worse subjectively than today, but there was an expectation that things were going to get better. There was a real sense of hopefulness. There isn't today.
Today's America was shaped by the 10 principles of concentration of wealth and power. Reduce democracy, attack solidarity, engineer elections, manufacture consent, and other principles, according to Noam Chomsky.
One set of rules for the rich, opposite set of rules for the poor. That's what happens when you put power into the hands of a narrow sector of wealth, which is dedicated to increasing power for itself, just as you'd expect.
One of the most influential intellectuals of our time speaks about the modern civilization of America.
Welcome back to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're discussing some real news. And now to Nicosia, where we're joined by Alex Christoforou. He is the director and writer for theTehran.com. Welcome to the program, Alex. Here, let me start out with you. We have Maria Butina returned to Russia finally. I would like to point out to our viewers that Eunice O'Neill of the news division did a wonderful interview with her here at RT, and I recommend everyone go over and have a look at it here. I mean, one of the things, this is such a bizarre and senseless and tragic, even cruel story. I mean, this is how the American media reported her return. Just let me give you two outlets here, Alex, and let me get your comment here. Politico ran a story titled Maria Butina, who admitted being a secret agent of the Kremlin, out of prison. The AP followed up with a news story titled on her, Russian woman who admitted being a secret agent out of prison. It's nonsense. It's simply not true. But so many other things about this story are not true as well. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, this is really a small part to a bigger story, Peter, and I think we should dissect it a little bit. Maria Butina was essentially put in prison because she was an unregistered lobbyist. And I mean, if we did that, you would have half of DC,
of course,
in prison. So yeah, she got entangled in Russia hysteria and the Russiagate hoax. And it's my opinion, Peter, that what we're seeing here is really the first shoe to drop here in the unraveling of the Russiagate hoax, in that Maria Butina now has been sent to Moscow in order to just kind of be rid of her. That's my impression of it, because what you're seeing now is you're seeing Barr and Durham closing in on investigating the investigators. And they were in Italy, and they were looking for Professor Mifsud, who, as we remember, started the entire Russiagate investigation by trying to entrap George Papadopoulos. It's my opinion that Maria Butina was also part of this entrapment scheme by the deep state and the intelligence agencies, in that they wanted to try to find a way, maybe a sexy story to connect Trump to Russia. And here you have Maria Butina, who's this semi well-known, semi-famous, gun advocate in Russia, now working with or embedding herself into the NRA. And I think the intelligence agencies tried to entrap her.
Maybe ingratiating her. Embedding, I think, it shows some kind of conspiracy, which was never proved. Keep going.
Right. She was part of this NRA, movement. She was very fascinated with guns and very fascinated with the gun lobby. It was an interest of hers. But we take a step back and remember that Fox News had an interview with the Overstock, I believe now he's the former Overstock CEO, the Overstock founder, Patrick Byrne. And he admitted, I believe it was Martha McCallan's show, he admitted that he was placed by the FBI and the deep state to find Maria Butina. This is a billionaire now seeking out Maria Butina and befriending her. And maybe the relationship carried further. We don't really know. But he admitted that the person that told him to do this, or at least it's his opinion that the person that gave this order was none other than Peter Strzok. So we can see a lot of dots connected from Maria Butina to the Russiagate hoax.
Xavier, but it didn't work out. All of the allegations made against her, a honeypot. She was trying to infiltrate the NRA, trying to infiltrate into GOP circles. None of it was true. They never proved it in court. And of course, as Alex just pointed out, if you want to use the not being registered as a foreign agent, then half of Washington, D.C. could be charged for the same thing. But they probably, even if they were, they probably wouldn't be put into some kind of maximum security prison, which she spent a good part of her time behind bars under those conditions here. I mean, they were trying to create a smoking gun to tie the Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, to Russia, and it failed. Like the Mueller report showed, it failed every single step of the way. And Alex is right. They want her to go away because they should be so red-faced of what they did to an innocent person. Her only sins were she liked America and she liked guns. Yeah. And she lost 18 months of her life.
That the words that she's in love with America. And she's still in love with America.
She still wants good relations.
Yes, but she criticized American justice in the last interview on RT. And it was very interesting because it's a no justice country. Because she pleaded guilty. Why? Because she found out that 90% of people plead guilty because there is no.
And if it had gone to trial, she could have gotten 15 years.
Yes. So it's again we were talking about the U.S. image in the world, but with this woman, the U.S. image in Russia will be completely destroyed. It's a no justice country actually. That's an evidence what's shown by Batuina during his interview on RT.
Alex, let me go back to you and Nicosia. I mean, we're seeing General Flynn's legal situation take a turn here. It seems like there's a possibility his lawyers want to have the entire case thrown out because it was fake from the very, very beginning. I mean, even Jim Comey, when he was FBI director, I'm going to paraphrase him, they snuck into the White House because the White House hadn't settled in with the new administration. I mean, it was an admission. He even admits that he was being underhanded here. And that story is falling apart. Everything related to so-called Russiagate is falling apart. That's why we have the impeachment process over Ukraine, which is a lot of Ukraine in Ukraine Gate, unlike Russiagate. Alex.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Peter. What we're seeing right now and the information that we're getting is that the FBI 302s were being tampered. They were being doctored in order to entrap Flynn. And I think you and Xavier made a very good point in that when you look at Maria Butina, you look at Flynn, you look at Papadopoulos, what do you see, Peter? You see a constant and consistent line of entrapment. Every one of these people, in one form or another, were being targeted and entrapped, and they all pleaded guilty in order to lessen the prison sentence. So, I mean, this is really shocking what we're seeing. And Maria Butina, I think, is just the beginning and the lowest level. And I think you're going to start to see Papadopoulos, you're going to start to see Flynn, and you're going to start to see the truth coming out because you're looking at Durham and you're looking at Barr, and they're closing in. They really are investigating what happened, and they're getting to the truth. And the truth starts with Professor Mifsud, and that's why you saw the AG, the Attorney General, Peter, actually get on a plane and go to Italy.
Yep. No.
That's incredible to find out how this thing originated.
But Alex, some viewers of this program and some viewers of what you just said are just going to call us conspiracy theorists. That's all they're going to do. But you marshaled a number of facts right there that are very inconvenient. Xavier, and this is what's happening here. This is what I would call the second shoe dropping, as we heard earlier. But it's going to be ignored. These people that were behind these shenanigans are going to be called patriots. They were doing it for the good of the country. They don't want to look at the facts that laws were broken, all of these illegal leaks. I mean, they're not even being, there's no interest in it at all because actually, it doesn't drive their narrative.
Because there is two courts in United States. There is a legal court and there is a medias. And if you look at what happened, what Baturina described during his interview, that she saw herself on the US TV accusing her of being of sex honeypot, of being a spy, nothing that was in the legal court actually, but there is a second court, so this media's court, and she's already guilty, and she anyway will
she's
be
already because she's an attractive Russian woman.
Yes,
that makes her guilty. Okay.
And even if the court decided to free Baturina, for the media, for this second court in the United States, she's still guilty, and she will be guilty till the end of their life. And if you deny it, you are a Russian agent. It's exactly what you will listen.
That's right. I mean, because if you deal in the realm of facts and the law, you're a Russian agent. It's interesting how that has happened here, Alex. When we come out with these reports with Durham and we have more information coming out from AG Barr, that's going to rattle some cages. I might tend to think a lot of people are lawyering up right now, Alex.
Oh yeah, I think you're exactly right, Peter. The big question is, you had, Flynn and Butina and Papadopoulos actually served prison sentences, or they were found guilty, or they pleaded guilty
to process
these crimes in order to avoid
process
crimes in order to avoid very long prison sentences. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with Brennan, Clapper, Comey, McCabe. How high does this thing go? If Brennan knew what was going on, and he was behind this, and Comey, how high does it go, Peter? The DNC, supposed CrowdStrike, email server hacks investigated by CrowdStrike and handed over to the FBI without the FBI looking at the server. You have Assange right now rotting in a UK prison. Rotting. For what? For being a journalist?
Yep. Exactly. And Xavier, what I think is really sad, is going back to Maria's story, is that in her interview on RT, after everything she's gone through, the misjustice, she still talks about improving U.S.-Russia relations. It's really amazing here, and I give her a lot of courage for wanting to do that. But the penalty of wanting to do something that's nominally a good idea cost her a lot. And she gets no credit for that in the media. Here in the media, as they act differently.
She's a hero. In the Russian media, we can tell she's a hero. But the point is, the last time we were talking about the US politics, you said there will be a fight to death between the Democrats, between the deep state, actually not only the Democrats, and Trump. And this poor woman is a part of this fight to death. And we don't know who will be the next victim of this fight. But anyway, during the next year, we will have a very, very bad fight against the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well,
and they will use any means
to destroy each other. It's really interesting if you look at the continuum. We have collusion with the Russians. Then you have racism. Then you have Ukraine. It's always a continuum here. And it never seems to end here. And you know what? It's the people that perpetrate this, they're going to be the biggest losers. Mark my words, November 2020. That's all the time we have. Many thanks to my guests in Moscow and in Nicosia. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time. And remember, crosstalk rules.